Welcome back to the workshop, everybody. Your good friend Walter here. So glad you could be with me today. I wanted to point out Ron Hock's book, The Perfect Edge. As you know by my last video, how to hock your plane, Ron is a premier bladesmith, and he wrote that book to help clarify a lot of things for people. And it is a wealth of information. If you'd like a copy, contact me. But in today's plane talk, I wanted to follow up on why you might want to put a new blade in a plane. And we spoke a little bit about sometimes people want to keep their original plane in the condition as found. Sometimes people have a historical significance, or sometimes the blade is worn out. Other times people are looking to gain a little more performance out of their tool. So, I thought this would be a great way to transition into some of the reasons you may want to replace it. Now, I dug out a few old blades here. Let's start with this one. This piece of cast steel made by Sandusky tool. And cast steel doesn't mean that this was cast. It means that the steel, this is iron, this is steel. The steel was crucible steel, cast, and then naturally rolled and forged out. But this is a laminated blade. You can see there's a section here where it was blacksmith forged in, and it's only about 1/16 of an inch and a little bit more. I'll use this one as an example, but these are all about the same, and I'll talk a little bit about this one. When you find an old tool, sometimes the back of the blade is oxidized, rusted, to the point where it has these black pits. That's basically steel that is missing. You can't replace that. The only way to get rid of it is to grind through it. Now comes the problem. Sometimes the blades, like this one, is convex in this direction, which means if I go to a stone, like I did, I showed you here, it's hitting here, but it's not hitting here, and it's not hitting in the front edge. So in order to get rid of those pits, I have to grind through all of this metal and keep going until I'm down all the way. That's a lot of work. Is it worth it? On this particular iron, possibly. I may even take a hammer to this one and see if I can't get a little bit of the concave out of the back so that this lays more flat, and maybe have to deal a little bit. Don't know. I may even take this to a machine shop and have this side surface ground. But it's a tapered iron, so that could cost me a lot of money. More modern blade. Still a laminated blade. Went to flatten this one, and this whole area in here is touching. This is not a bad blade. It's almost like a Japanese blade where it's got hollow in the middle. That's fine. But I still can't flatten the whole thing up to the front edge without taking a lot of metal off, or taking this to a flat anvil and trying to flatten it, which means I have run the risk of breaking it. It may move just enough, but this hard steel, this crucible steel that they use, is very brittle, whereas the steel on the back, or wrought iron on the older ones, is soft. So instead of grinding more and more thickness away, we revert to the David Charlesworth ruler technique, and we work just the front section of the blade. Okay, so I've already done this one. I don't need to waste your time over and over doing that, but you can see I've already done this one. It has a narrow band of shiny metal straight across the front. The chip breaker will come in and mate to that. We're good to go. So, you buy a new blade, there's a much better chance that that new blade is going to be in a better flatness condition. And as you saw in the How to Hock Your Plane, I was able to lay that flat on this stone and start getting hit marks across the whole entire back. But then I did quickly take this, because I wanted to show you how that blade cuts, and I did the ruler technique. All right. If at all possible, and your stone, whether it be diamond, water, oil, sandpaper on glass, or on granite, whatever your method for flattening is, if it's extremely flat, I mean, diamonds are flat, but they're still not perfectly flat. They still can be out a thousandth of an inch in every direction. The goal is always to flatten the back entirely, whether it's plain blades or chisels. Flatten it completely for at least the first inch, inch and a half, or like with plain blades, if I can do it up to the screw hole, or maybe a little bit further, if I can put my fingers on here and I can get this section flat, okay, then I'm a very happy person. But if not, use the ruler technique, move on. Life is about getting things done and getting and accomplishing something, all right? If you want to chase after a perfect mirror finish on the back of your blades and chisels, that's fantastic. But the hours and hours and hours you're going to spend doing it will not pay multiple dividends. Yes, it's a one-time deal. But on thin blades, you're going to be taking a lot of metal off, you're going to be flexing the blade, you're going to be driving yourself crazy. The goal is flat. Aha, see? That's a chip breaker screwdriver. I almost did it. I get yelled at for that. The same thing here. And here I'll take this off just to show you, but for regular sharpening I don't need to. I've already flattened this. Okay, we've got this area out here. It's almost a quarter, 5/16, going on 3/8. It's getting wider. Okay. If you've got a hollow, you're in better shape than if you've got a convex. And yes, you can tap them out, but you can also run the risk of breaking the blade. It all depends how hard they are. So, on to one other aspect of sharpening. And this has to do with some questions in regard to, I want a touch-up stone that I don't need to go back through the grits. You know, the 180, the 300, the 1,000, the 4,000, the 6,000, 8,000, whatever. I don't want to go back through the grits every time I sharpen. Okay. Then basically, you grind, whether it be with a machine or by hand, but you grind your 25-degree primary all the way up to where you're almost at the polished edge. Don't go all the way. Don't create more scratches out there. Just like within a, I don't know, 64th. Just, you'll still see a little bit of your polished edge. Then you come in with the stone that you use last. Now right now on this jack plane, I've got this sharpened both sides to 1,000 grit. That's as far as I need to go on a jack plane. Come in, hit the back of the bevel. Come up until you meet the front of the bevel. And I've said this over and over again. I'm just repeating myself for those of you who are new. Back of the bevel, up till you meet the front of the bevel, and then depending on how many times you've sharpened it, you need to raise it a titch. What's a titch? 1 degree, 2 degrees. Each time you hone, you're raising it that 1 or 2 degrees, just so you can quickly come in a little bit of a burr on this corner. A little bit of a burr on that corner. Not much in the middle, because I'm rocking it a little bit. I want a little bit of a camber on the blade. There it is. So now I've got a burr across the whole front. Ruler technique. You come in and you can swipe back and forth just lightly. Most of the burr is gone. Let's pull it this time. That's it. Burr's gone. And then you can go back and forth. You can go back to the bevel. You can go back to the back. That's called chasing the burr. You can do that as many times as you want, depending on the function of your blade. But I don't know if you can see, what's happening is the primary grind is starting to get smaller and the secondary is starting to get bigger. I don't know if you can see that. And eventually that secondary bevel will end up being 30, 35 degrees, and it'll still cut and you can still sharpen. But eventually you're going to have to go back and reestablish that 25 degree. That's quick sharpening. Okay? You can do that in seconds. You know, like, so for instance, I take the plane out, I put the ruler technique down, I come back here, I touch, I come in here, I go like this, I find the bevel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Burr on the back, flip it over, scooch, scooch, pull. I can slap that back in the plane now. It's ready to go to work. That's how fast you can get back to work. Now, if this were a smoothing plane, I could take it next to the 4000 grit. Go to the bevel first this time. Okay? I'm not even going to put any fluid on here. Bevel, up. Lift it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Burr on the back. Ruler technique. Scooch, scooch, scooch. Now remember, the last time I was at 1000 grit, so now we want to polish that out a little bit. Burr's gone. Burr's gone. Ready to go to work. So that's about it. That's sharpening. It is that simple. Don't overcomplicate it. There's a lot of good articles out there, and it really comes down to 2 steps. 1, establish your primary. Okay? You establish your primary bevel. 2, polish the secondary bevel. And 3, remove the burr. Rinse and repeat as needed. Always make sure you're in your lateral before you close the lid. Check for exposure. Advance it in or out. Check for lateral. Adjust to where you're nearly, visually perfect across it, and then back off as much as possible. And you're ready to cut. I got stuff all over the bench, otherwise I'd do a flat surface, but you get the point. And there you go. Sharpening. In under a minute, you can maintain your blade to where you're getting shavings, where you're down to the cellular level. So if anybody's interested in one of Ron Hawk's books, send me a message. I think they're $27, and I'll pay the shipping within the United States. You need any Hawk blades, let me know. I'm going to place another order here soon. Remember, a little oil on the bottom of your plane reduces friction and eliminates that so-called chatter. Any questions and comments? Leave them in the comment section. Subscribe if you haven't, that would be wonderful. It would make me happy. So I can let you know when we got something new coming along. And if you found anything useful here, give it the old thumbs up. Like it. Share it. Share it in all your different social media, which I don't even know what some of it is anymore. I'm so far behind the curve when it comes to some of the technologies out there. But I know my hand planes. Come on back another time. We'll do some more crazy stuff. Head out to your workshop. Make some shavings. Walter out.